Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today we're doing part 2 of Voldemort's return in the graveyard from book 4. I'm Renee, and again we have Jess with us to discuss the rest of this scene. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Jess. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode.
So let's get into chapter 33, which is called The Death Eaters. And now this is getting into, my recap of this chapter is Voldemort getting on his Death Eaters for being two-faced bitches.
Yeah, the bitches facing off.
Yes. This is like
the
Mean
burn
Girls.
book. So you girls, didn't even come look for me. We got tattoos together, and y'all didn't even care that my body was destroyed when I tried to kill a baby.
Exactly.
I can't believe you.
Y'all are dead to me, and there's a couple people who aren't here that I'm gonna go kill later because of this.
Yeah.
So after he, does his whole inspection of his new body, he starts out again, just in case we were not sure if he was still evil, he immediately casts a spell to throw Wormtail against a headstone to test his strength. So he's right back to his old self.
Yeah, really. What? That is, I'm dead. I never realized that. He immediately the guy who just helped me and who lost his hand got boom.
Yeah. Let's make him suffer
doesn't even
some
care.
more.
Yeah.
So after he does that, he, summons Wormtail over, and Wormtail thinks that he's immediately going to give him his prosthetic hand and recover his suffering. But again, Voldemort's like, no, gotta summon the Death Eaters. So this is where we see, the color changing tattoo. He summons all the Death Eaters, and then he kind of is waiting for them to show up, and they slowly start to appear.
Mm-hmm. This is one of my pet peeves is, while they're waiting for the Death Eaters, Voldemort explains to Harry his family history.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not get this in the movies. And it is just a pet peeve of mine because I feel like so much of what how it all makes sense and wraps up in the end is explained in this scene. And just this is where it really starts to, you're missing so much major plot points from the movies, from the books in the movies.
Yeah. In my personal opinion, from movies 4 on, I start to kind of get more annoyed with the movies because I think they leave out a lot of key, like you said, a lot of key aspects of the books that make the story so good.
Yeah. I just remember it's him talking about how his dad left his mom.
Yeah, and his family, he's pointing out the fact that his family lives up the hill in this house, or his, so basically his grandparents and his father, Tom Riddle, they're muggles. They lived up the hill. And you get more of this in the beginning of the book too, where they did the flashback of the gardener being blamed for these deaths. Because Voldemort goes back to this house earlier and kills his 2 grandparents and his father, Tom Riddle, in that that very house. And then they get buried in this graveyard where they're at this time. And, he talks about his father being a muggle and this fool, and relates him to Lily and saying Harry, you and I, we both have these dumb muggle parents, and then our dumb wizard parents married them, who knows why, all that. And kind of tells Harry that's why we had to come to this graveyard, because we had to get this bone, and my dad ends up being useful.
All right, girl, let me catch you up where we are.
Yeah,
you're standing on the bones of my father, who I actually did murder.
Yeah, he's such a little girls gabbing. He's like, now that I'm back, I got a lot of things to say here.
Yeah, he really, that's exactly the vibe. It's really oh, let me yap, since I couldn't for 11 years.
Yes, there's a popular meme that's going around that's this and yap, and there'll be people slamming drinks and food down to talk. This is Voldemort.
The cauldron in the graveyard and Harry attached, tied up to the grave. This and yap.
Yes, I'll have to make a meme version of that for our Instagram.
That is so funny.
But so Voldemort tells this history as the Death Eaters are coming as they're waiting for the Death Eaters to come back, and then they start, like apparating into the graveyard. And they're all hooded and masked, and they make this, circle around. So they're this little like kumbaya circle, whatever, around this scene. And this is another big difference from the movies is Harry in the books, there's about 30 of them, which also tracks for like how many Death Eaters we know exist in this Harry Potter universe. But in the movies, I literally was stopping the movie and trying to count the Death Eaters.
There's literally like 7.
Yes,
I think.
in one screen grab, I got 7, and then in a later screen grab, I got 10. So I'm like, wait, what the heck are more like appearing as the scene is going on?
Yeah. Yikes.
And the other big yikes from the movie is they're very like their outfits are very KKK reminiscent. Like they have the big pointed hoods that's not described in the books, but I guess they're making the parallel of these like prejudiced people from the real world, and then very prejudiced people like that are the Death Eaters, right? This like weird cult that's killing people and judging people that are different than them. So I see the comparison, but it was a little bit weird.
It's a bit much.
Yeah,
honestly.
It was a bit much. And then in the later movies, they seem to do away with that. Like the Death Eaters look a lot different, where they have like the silver masks and the like more regular hood, which is how I'm picturing them from the books more. Like just a hooded cloak like you would see a wizard, right?
Exactly. And I feel like, I'm thinking they probably got complaints about that.
Yeah.
I think it's very chill, honestly. It's like, yeah, maybe don't put this in a movie.
Yeah.
And then the masks part, like in the movie, you know how they're like have this like kind of like half skull mask thing, and whenever Voldemort's going around and like taking it off, it seems like it like hurts them because they like fall down and like they have this like face of pain. So I don't know what that whole thing was. That was also another creative liberty. So I guess like co-director Jess would also have some changes to this scene in a future film.
This scene, okay, Jess, go with me on this. This whole scene in the movies, I feel like Voldemort is like moving around really quickly, like he's like jumping around.
Yeah, he literally is like, yeah.
Like it's very chaotic. It makes me think of, go with me on this, it makes me think of the Jim Carrey Grinch, where he's like, he's like jumping around. Right?
Yeah, like the Psycho scene where he's like trying to like scare Cindy Lou.
Yes. It seems like in the camera work, it's very like jumping around. He seems a lot calmer and like, just going around the circle in the books version of this. But like you said, he's basically going around and calling them out. He goes through them one by one, I think, or maybe not all of them, but some, like he calls them out name by name and talks to them individually in the books.
Why don't you read what you've written, Renee?
Here's what I wrote in our outline. I wrote, Voldemort calls them out for being two-faced bitches. Because that's what it is. He goes
For
after
real.
them saying, like, none of you came after me. Like you said, none of you tried to find me. And, people like Lucius, for example, he's called out specifically saying, like, you didn't try to look for me. And then when you pulled your little stunt where you had, you're messing with muggles, and then my dark mark gets up in the air, you all ran. Like, he's like, I know that you guys weren't ready to jump back to me because when you saw the dark mark, you didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, because that would have been a good indication of like, hey, we're about to rise again, type of thing. Of like, you might want to try to help.
Yes.
And like, no one came to like help Barty Crouch Jr. with this, mission or task.
Yeah, which Barty Crouch Jr. I think did that on purpose to expose them, and knew that they're the type of people that are out and not in Azkaban are not the type of people that are going to jump to Voldemort's aid unless they're like being forced to, because they're the ones that weaseled their way out of prison versus people like Barty Crouch Jr. and the Lestranges
Bellatrix,
and Dolohov and some of the other people that went to prison kind of like faithfully following Voldemort.
Yeah.
So Avery is one of the Death Eaters. He falls to the ground and basically begs for forgiveness, and Voldemort tortures him. Avery seems like not the smartest of the Death Eaters.
Is this Avery Not? Is that who it is? Or
Not is a
someone else?
different person.
Okay.
Avery is the one that later in the 5th book, he tells Voldemort that Bode will be able to take the prophecy. And, so
Mhm.
Lucius compels him to do that. And like he does it, it doesn't work out. And then Voldemort finds out that only the people that the prophecy is about can take them. And Avery gets
Mhm.
tortured again. So Avery, I feel like, is just like bumbling around.
Yeah.
And then Voldemort creates the silver right hand for Wormtail. This is when Wormtail gets his like prosthetic.
Describing it as a prosthetic is wild.
Well, I mean,
prosthetic.
it's
Yeah,
a
no,
wizard
it's
version.
just funny.
Again, like Voldemort, he's all like, "Oh, I'm a pure blood," but then he does this prosthetic hand. He uses the bone of a Muggle to recreate his human self. Like he does this so many things that I feel like are kind of hypocritical.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll call out. So the Death Eaters that were there that we know that are named is like obviously Pettigrew, Lucius Malfoy, Walden McNair, Crabbe, Goyle, Knott, and Avery. But there's more. Like I said, there's about 30 of them. So there's more that we don't actually get names for. And then Voldemort himself calls out. He doesn't name them, or he names the Lestranges. He says that the Lestranges are faithful to them and they're in Azkaban. And that's Bellatrix and her husband Rodolphus, and then his brother Rabastin. And then there's some people he doesn't actually name, but we can kind of figure out who they are. He says that there's 3 dead in his service. And then I think he says like a couple that have betrayed him, and then his faithful servant at Hogwarts. So I'm not exactly sure the people he's referring to that are dead. I know Wilkes and Rosier are 2 that are supposed to have died around the time that or like a little bit before he went, like he died or didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the ones that he's talking about betrayed him are Severus Snape, that doesn't appear here. He,
Yeah.
goes and talks to him later. And then
That's one I
obviously
think when he
Karkaroff.
was talking about like one I've like lost forever, or I think I've lost from my employer or whatever. And I think he was talking about Snape there. And then he was talking about a coward, which I think is Igor Karkaroff.
Yes. And I don't think they address this in the movies, but in the books, I think it's book 6 or book 7, the Death Eaters basically hunt down Karkaroff and kill him. So he does end up getting killed in the end.
Mm.
And then Snape appears to Voldemort later, hours after this happens. So Snape is able to kind of talk his way out of, basically convinces Voldemort that he hasn't betrayed him, or he hasn't lost him forever.
Yeah, yeah. Big night for Snape. We'll
Yeah.
say.
This is an interesting like conversation, because the Death Eaters, obviously he's revealing them to each other in this scene, right? He's taking off their masks in the movie, or he's calling them by name, and they seem to have again, this is like girly girl. They have assigned seating. They have an assigned arrangement in a circle, because it's like they leave spaces for the people that are missing, where there's gaps, and they seem to be like, in a certain alignment. Like the Lucius Malfoy, I think the Lestranges are next to him, whatnot, which I think is interesting, because in the testimony that Karkaroff gives in the 4th like book flashbacks, or I guess I should say Pensive, when he's getting tried, he kind of, I think it's him that mentions that they don't all know each other, like the Death Eater, like Voldemort has not let them all know who the other Death Eaters are, which is obviously a great like strategic move, right? Like if you don't let all the people in your gang know who each other are, then when one of them gets arrested, they can't go and name all the people in the gang. They can only name like a couple people they might know. So I think it's interesting that in this scene, it's like they almost seem to know if they have assigned seating in this ring, then wouldn't they know all of each other, or are they always masked so they don't always know?
I mean, and also he is like saying their names out loud most of the time. So I think that was probably just Karkaroff trying to like say that he didn't know about the other Death Eaters and trying to get off like without having to name people, because he knows that those people would come after him if he named them. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
So he could have just been lying under oath.
Yeah. My interpretation is that before they didn't know each other, or they maybe had their assigned like places, but they didn't know like who all was in what place. Like they just know their own
Yeah.
place.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that Voldemort names them here because he's like, you all betrayed me and didn't name, and didn't come back for me. So I'm going to make sure you all know each other's names. So then if
Mm-hmm.
like you guys try to betray me again, you're all going down. Like I'm taking you with me,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, that's a good point. That, and then too, but like Igor knew to Igor Karkaroff, sorry, I keep like only saying his first name, but he knew to go to Snape about the tattoo, so it's like he knew that Snape was a Death Eater. And like obviously I feel like all the people who are friends with the Malfoys know that they're Death Eaters. So I don't know if it's like only if you like share that,
Yeah.
hey, I'm a Death Eater with you, or like are you wanna, hey, were you busy Saturday night, like were they like double checking their agendas, like, oh yeah, were you called on like Tuesday to like go somewhere, and like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, was that you like over there with that like pointy like hat?
Well, later too, like in the sixth book when Draco gets his assignment and then Narcissa goes to talk to Snape and Bellatrix is saying like you can't talk to Snape about this, they're insinuating that when you get your assignment from Voldemort, you're not necessarily supposed to talk about it with the other Death Eaters that are in this gang. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like maybe Voldemort is assigning things to them individually, and then they're not really supposed to talk to each other about it, but they maybe are or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But yeah, there's definitely this maybe in, like I said, maybe there was more secrecy before and now there's not in his like second regain to power. But anyway, he talking more about his plans, he tells the Death Eaters that he's going to try to recruit the Giants and the Dementors and basically build an army. So Harry's getting a lot of information from Voldemort here that he wasn't expecting was going to be immediately then relayed to Dumbledore.
Because then it's, yeah, exactly, because he thinks he's about to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny because it's like goes back to the, you're just yapping and you probably shouldn't be, because it's like, well, you're like telling the enemy like, oh, guess how I did it all. It's just like
Yeah.
classic, like, you shouldn't do this as a villain 101. So.
Yes. I don't know, Voldemort in some ways is incredibly intelligent. And then in other ways, I think it's not that he's not intelligent. I think it's that
He's arrogant.
He's arrogant. Yeah. He lets his pride
Yeah.
get in the way. And he's like, I'm so smart. And I just have to share. I just have to yap about this great plan that I made.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is like, I will say, very like, he's a genius. Like,
Yeah.
the whole plan of like, hey, okay, well, we learned this information from Bertha Jorkins, learns all this information from her as like an Auror in the Ministry about the Triwizard Tournament and who's going to be there and all of that stuff. Do we know how Barty Crouch Jr. like breaks out of Azkaban?
So yeah, they give a backstory in the books, and this is again like Barty Crouch's junior and senior. Their whole story and all of this like is not included in the books not included in the movies, and I feel like it leaves out so much information. Barty Crouch Jr. gets put in prison, and the wife, so Mrs. Crouch, she feels so bad and doesn't want her kid to be in prison. So then she switches with him.
Yeah, I remember now.
And she's the one that dies in prison, disguises him, and
they like bury her body.
Yes. And then Barty Crouch Jr., for the people that have only seen the movies, Barty Crouch Jr. then goes and is under the Imperious curse by his father, Barty Crouch Sr., living at his house. So Winky takes care of him, and he's just there kept in secret, living under an invisibility cloak and under the Imperious curse. And Bertha Jorkins discovers this on a visit to their house. And then Barty Crouch Sr. does memory charms on her so she doesn't remember, and that's part of why she has like bad memory. He like permanently affected her memory system basically.
Mm-hmm.
But Voldemort gets in there and reveals this information. So he gets so much information from Bertha Jorkins that he then strategically uses, like you're saying.
Yeah, because now I remember, because it's like something where they went to the Quidditch World Cup. Like he wanted to bring Barty Crouch Jr. out because he felt bad for like keeping him or whatever. So then that's why Winky was there. And she was
Yes.
like sitting next to like no one, but it was really supposed to be Barty Crouch Jr. But then that's also because he was getting like immune to the Imperious curse because he was like under it so often. And then he like regained like consciousness and like left during the Quidditch World Cup but like ran away to go find Voldemort.
Yeah, exactly.
So that makes sense.
Yeah, and then Voldemort eventually teams up with him and all that. So, which he doesn't like go into super detail about all of that, which Barty Crouch Jr. then later reveals under Veritaserum in, back at Hogwarts. So Harry gets even more information when he gets back, but Harry gets a lot of information from Voldemort. And like you said, with Voldemort being a genius, especially in this artful way that his plan to come back and a lot of his plans that we see later and all these stuff with the Death Eaters. Have you ever read The Art of War?
No.
Sun Tzu wrote this Art of War that's like this famous book, and I'm pretty sure it's free to get on like Audible. It's a very short read and it's just like war strategy basically, and this is like the Bible for anyone that's leading an army. But there's some key principles. I'm not going to like go through the whole book, but I kind of like jotted down the key principles from the book. And I thought it was interesting comparing these to Voldemort's strategy because he follows a lot of the basic principles that you should be following if you're like leading an army, which essentially that's what he's doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is knowing yourself and your enemy. Obviously, he makes some key pitfalls here, but it's very interesting. Like, he knows that Harry is a rescuer and wants to save people, and he uses that to his advantage with Ginny, with Sirius. Like, he does some studying of Harry and also of Dumbledore, and then uses those things against them, and then uses his own strengths, to his advantage. But he kind of, where his biggest fault is he doesn't really seek to understand his weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
Then another one is prioritizing victory without fighting. So basically in The Art of War, that's like trying not to engage in direct combat, using diplomacy, things like that. Voldemort, kind of does this with, like, let's say at the end of the Battle of Hogwarts, he's like, just give me Harry and you don't have to fight. Like, he's trying not to, get a bunch of his army killed off essentially, and tries to get like Harry to bring himself to him. So I thought like he definitely uses that strategy to some extent. I mean, he's not the most diplomatic, but he's never really trying to like engage in all out warfare.
I'd say with like the revolution of the world, he is most definitely trying to like engage in warfare when he's trying to like it. I mean, his whole goal is to eradicate muggles and muggle-borns, right? He's like trying to take over the Wizarding World, but also the whole world.
Yeah, I think so. But I guess I'm saying he doesn't want a situation where he's like taking his army, we could call it, and a wizarding army and taking them against each other, because he doesn't want to kill off more purebloods on his side and theirs. Like, he even says that he doesn't want to kill Neville because he's a pureblood. He doesn't want to spill more pureblood. Like muggles, yeah, he'll like kill off and whatever.
Yeah.
But he's not trying to take out people that will be followers for him or part of his pureblood world. And other things are adaptability and flexibility. Obviously, like this scene goes horribly wrong for him, but he's able to adapt by letting the Ministry, help basically work for him, not intentionally, but by keeping his return a secret, making Harry and Dumbledore seem like they're crazy. He kind of like adapts to that instead of just being like, oh, Harry found out, like all bets are off, I'm just going to reveal myself. He still is able to like work in secret. Deception is his best. This is just like creating confusion. This is where he's like excels the most, because there's just so much confusion around him. Like, people don't trust each other. He gets people to like go against each other within the same side. Like, this is his greatest strength, I think. And then strategic planning and resource management. Obviously, this goes into like his plans to get the giants and the Dementors and like, you know, conserve his Death Eaters, get Death Eaters out of Azkaban, all of that. And then recognizing the impact of terrain. This doesn't really apply so much because he's not like, you know, in the traditional sense of like fighting over mountains or fields or like over water. But it does in the sense of he's not going to just like invade Hogwarts like in this book. He's going to like, he needs to build up more of an army.
He needs to build his army.
He needs to get rid of Dumbledore. Like he recognizes that like Dumbledore has that locked down. Like he can't just like walk into Hogwarts and grab Harry, you know, like he kind of understands certain areas or like ministry. They work very like secretively to plant people in the ministry. He doesn't just go all out like and, you know, assign himself as minister of magic. Like he works strategically in those areas. And then leadership and discipline. This goes into like maintaining morale and being a good leader. I don't think he does this well. This is like obviously he just works off of like discipline and fear essentially to get his followers and threatening people, coercion, which isn't a stable army. So this ends up like being part of his downfall because like Narcissa Malfoy betrays him. So doesn't do so well here, but does obviously some aspects like he's a powerful leader that people respect. And then offensive and defensive strategies. I mean, that goes into all of his plans, like working defense and offense simultaneously. And then lastly, the importance of intelligence. So like, for an example, using spies to gather intel, which he does use. He thinks that he's using Snape as a spy. So that like, those are kind of like all of the key principles of Sun Tzu's Art of War. And I think it's interesting comparing that to Voldemort. Like he is following those principles to the most part, right?
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, back to the Yap session. He also tells the Death Eaters about his demise and rebirth, which we kind of talked about before, like him using other people, using Quirrell, using Pettigrew, and like finding that information. And then he, you know, and again, he explains how he gets Harry back and comes back and like his spell of his own invention. And then, you know, he gets Harry untied, does Crucio and Harry, and he tells Harry that he's going to now duel him in front of the Death Eaters just to show the Death Eaters. So there's no shadow of a doubt that Harry's more powerful than him. Like this is his little like, oh, I'm going to do this demonstration for y'all of how powerful I am.
Yep.
And that is the end of that chapter. And we're left with that big cliffhanger of like, oh, you know, Harry's about to duel Voldemort. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So there's one part that I didn't chat about in the middle of when you were talking about the scene, but I just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
I was doing a re-listen of like this part because I have these on the audiobook. And when I kid you not, when I like heard this, I had to pause it and like rewind it and like play it again just because I was laughing so hard.
Okay. All right. Tell me about it.
So there's a part where he's talking about Peter Pettigrew making his way as a rat like across the country to get to Voldemort.
Yes.
And he and he says it's like this like rat lore going on. And I'm just like picturing these little rats like squeaking to Peter Pettigrew as a rat. And because he goes, oh yeah, like Wormtail's like vermin friends or whatever said that there was like the weird things happening to other rats in this weird part of the country.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just picturing these little rats like, hey, bro, halfway across the country, some of the rats are like becoming possessed over there. So maybe stay away from that like section of the woods. Like, I just think how funny is it like to think that like, so now we're all like, I know we talked about how like, why can we talk to some animals in the wizarding world or magical world versus others? But this just proves that like animals can talk to each other, even if you're an animagi. What I cannot pronounce words in the Harry Potter universe. But basically, the fact that Peter Pettigrew is a human, and when he's in rat form, he can talk to other rats, which is similar to like Sirius. He can talk to like Crookshanks and stuff, or they can communicate. But I just think that is just so funny, thinking about rats and snakes across the country being like, hey, Voldemort's in the woods over there. People keep dying. Maybe we should avoid than that section of the woods. And it's just hilarious to me that that's how Peter Pettigrew is like, oh, I gotta go over there.
Yes. Yes. He literally finds him through
rats.
the rat channel.
Yes, that's what I mean. That's like so funny to me. I was like dying laughing, picturing like these squeaking rats in my head. That's like in director Jess, there's rats squeaking to each other, and that's how he finds Voldemort.
Yes, that's canon for the books, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Again and again, and transforming into an animal, animagus, becoming one of the animagi, that is like the answer. That's how Sirius gets out of prison. That's how they maintain Lupin as a werewolf. That's how Pettigrew finds Voldemort. It's like the auras that are supposed to be assigned to looking for Voldemort it should be like a requirement that you have to turn into an animagus, because apparently that's like the solution to everything, and almost no one does it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about how like hard it is because you have to like hold something in your mouth for like 30 days, right?
Yeah, it's very complicated.
Yeah.
And it can go horribly wrong, so I guess that's like the excuse for why. But it's like, assign a couple or have auras be like, you get a promotion if you go out of your way to do this.
Capitalism.
Get the people with the money,
Nah, bro, I'm not trying to be a cog in the machine. It's almost like they could be like Secret Service, like part of the ministry.
Like they're like CIA or whatever.
Because think about it, like how Rita Skeeter was like a ladybug to just like spy on people, basically. It's like they could probably have a whole department in the ministry that's just people who are animagus, like going around and like listening to people and like getting intel. So
yeah, like if Rita Skeeter ever got caught, she should just go to the ministry and say, "Look, I will like be a spy for you."
Spy for you, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So I personally love this chapter because, like I talked about, like I think it just reveals so much about Voldemort's plans and inner workings, and I think it's just fascinating, and it's important because Harry obviously uses a lot of this intel later in his strategies to like find horcruxes and kind of understand Voldemort and attack him properly. So I don't know. I think it's very interesting. The one question I do have, though, is Voldemort says, "I, who have gone further than anybody on earth on the path that leads to immortality. You know my goal, to conquer death." He's talking to his Death Eaters about his plans, but it's like they don't know about the horcruxes. So what do they think he's doing to conquer death?
I think they do know about the horcruxes, though. Don't they? Because he says, yeah, I who have gone further than anybody on earth on the path that leads to immortality. And before that, he had even had a line that said, they who knew long ago I took the steps to guard myself against immortal death. He says that. Like, so he took the steps. To me, that means they knew he had horcruxes out there to protect himself from death. So that's what I'm like, that's why he's saying to them, even though y'all knew I had horcruxes and like went away, essentially, you should have known to look for me because you knew I had horcruxes and you knew I would be like out there alive, just weak somewhere. That's how I took that.
Okay. Well, Regulus says in his note, "I want you to know that it was I who discovered your secret," when he, found the horcrux. Mm-hmm. So I guess, are you saying that they know that he has a horcrux or horcruxes, but they just don't know what they are or where they are?
Yeah. That's what I mean. I would assume that no one knows that information but Voldemort. And Regulus is saying, I've discovered like where your horcruxes are.
Okay. It seems like when Dumbledore's talking to Harry, and then Dumbledore has Harry go through all the steps to find like the conversation with Slughorn about horcruxes, and Dumbledore mentions that Voldemort probably regrets that he brought up horcruxes to Slughorn. I always interpreted this as no one knows about the horcruxes. If Voldemort believes that no one at all knows about the horcruxes, Dumbledore goes through a lot of steps to discover this and tells Harry this, and then like Harry shares this information with Ron and Hermione, and then later he shares the information about the snake needing to be killed with Neville, like that this was, and Harry doesn't even reveal this to like the rest of the Order of the Phoenix. So I'm thinking that like only a very, very, very select few people like.
Actually, yeah, no, you're so right, because they don't even know what Harry's mission is.
Right?
hunting horcrux. Like a lot of people, that was the whole thing. They had to keep what they were doing quiet.
Yeah, and the fact that Lucius Malfoy uses a horcrux to bring, the basilisk out to kill muggles, and Dumbledore has a line where he's saying like Lucius didn't know that it was a horcrux. Like he didn't know exactly what it was. He just knew that it would bring the snake out, and everyone was enacting it. And Dumbledore comments that like if Lucius had known what it was, he wouldn't have like, taken it out without like willy-nilly sort of. So I don't really know. I think it's unclear, and maybe it's up for interpretation, but I think my stance on it is that they don't know about the horcruxes. Maybe they know about him trying to get the Philosopher's Stone and using.
I wonder if there's like
blood.
a J.K. Rowling article about it.
I haven't found it.
Where she explains it away.
Maybe there's an interview or something like that describes it, but I don't know. So that's why I was just curious, like, what do the Death Eaters think that he's doing? Maybe they just think there's other, like, dark magic that can help extend your life. Like, he's out here doing Botox.
Them, yeah. He could have told them, like, oh, I'm taking steps to, like, if I ever die, I won't actually die. He could have just said that and, like, left it at that. I don't know.
And they just don't know the details.
One thing that I didn't mention that I had a note on for this chapter, at the end when Voldemort is talking about bringing Harry to the graveyard and using Harry when he could have used any other enemy, and he knew he could break Lily's blood protection by using Harry's blood. I thought that was so interesting that he like thought this through so much that like he's like, no, I can't just use any type of enemy like Wormtail suggested, the idiot dumb Wormtail. Like I need to use Harry's blood. So then it breaks the protection, and he says that I will be even more powerful if I use Harry because he's like my ultimate enemy. Just very brilliant of Voldemort to think that way of like, well, since I can't touch Harry because of this old magic, the like, love magic or whatever you want to call it, I can break that by using him in this process. So it's kind of like 2 birds, 1 stone type of thing.
Yes. Yeah. And this is the key point. Him taking Harry's blood and bringing it into his own body is why when Harry gets killed, the killing curse the second time, when Harry gets like killed for lack of a better term, why Harry's able to come back. Dumbledore describes this in King's Cross Station, way ahead. He explains that basically by Voldemort taking the blood into his system, into his body, that tethered, and it also has Lily's protection in it from Harry, that tethered Harry to like the world. So after he died, he was able to come back through that. So him taking Harry's blood, like he doesn't even know how important it's important for him, because then he could touch Harry and everything. But it becomes like super important later for Harry's side, because that's how he's able to come back.
Yeah.
So chapter 34, Priori Incantatem. So basically Harry's untied and he's ready to duel Voldemort. And this is a little like callback to the Dueling Club episode, because that's the only other time Harry learned about dueling.
Yeah.
Or Voldemort tells him, we're going to, obey the niceties or whatever. So we're going to do our like bow and face each other and duel. And this is such a creepy line. He says, bow to death, Harry, and then forces him down with his wand and, does Crucio on him again.
Wait, that happens in the movies, I know, but I don't know if he makes him like bow in the books, right? Because then we have the whole internal Harry monologue, and this is where I made a note to say like Harry is 14 and he's more brave than most wizards because he's having this internal monologue about not bowing before Voldemort kills him to not give him the satisfaction. So I don't know, does it happen in the books like that?
There's 2 things that happen. He says bow to death, and he makes him bow. This isn't the Imperius Curse. This is just him like basically forcing Harry's body into like a bowing position. Then he does Crucio on Harry, and then he says, you don't want me to, he's like touring with him, and he says, oh, you don't want me to do that again, do you? like say no. And Harry says, I'm not going to say no. And then he does the Imperious Curse. And this is what you're talking about, where he's like, Harry in his head is like, I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to let him play with me before he kills me. Like, I'm not going to play his games. So under the Imperious Curse, he fights it and he says, I won't. Like, he yells out, I won't, and says, like, I won't say no. I'm not going to like play along with you. I know basically in Harry's mind, which again goes to his bravery, he's like, I know that you're going to kill me. I know this is the end for me, but I'm not going to play your little games. Like, I'm going to like be brave and like fight against you to the end.
Yeah. And this too, because he has been under the Imperious Curse before at this point when they were practicing in Moody's class.
Yeah, from Barty Crouch Jr. disguised as Moody.
Which is funny because it's like, why would Barty Crouch Jr. teach him to like, you know, say no to the Imperious Curse? Well, we get that Barty Crouch Jr., he himself has a good, tolerance against this curse. I'm just wondering, wouldn't he not want to prepare Harry for Voldemort using this on him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is one of the big questions is like, why did Barty Crouch Jr. actually turn out to be kind of like a good teacher?
The best Hogwarts teacher that they've ever had for Defense Against the Dark Arts.
Yes.
I mean, outside of Lupin, I feel like he was good too, obviously, but.
Yeah, he was a very good teacher. I don't know. I mean, you could chalk it out to partially being like he has to give this Oscar-winning performance as Moody to not get caught. Yeah. But also, yeah, it seems like a misstep because he definitely prepares Harry. I don't know if he's doing it like for like this is fun for him, like to put kids under the Imperious Curse. I don't know. It's very weird. Like, yeah, it feels like you shouldn't have done that. So I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, it's interesting. J.K. Rowling, write an article about it.
Yeah, write an article about it. We need more of like the Barty Crouch Jr. mindset. Like, why did he do what he do? What were his plans? So Voldemort tries to Crucio Harry, and Harry runs and hides behind the tombstone. And this is when Voldemort's like, okay, I'm not playing anymore. Like, come out and I'm going to kill you. And we'll end it here, basically. And I love this internal monologue from Harry. This is like, again, I think this is one of Harry's most heroic moments. He's crouching behind the tombstone. Voldemort's approaching him. And he just decides, and I think they kind of show this like in his expression in the movie, though we don't get like the internal monologue, but he basically decides, I'm not going to die kneeling down. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to face him. I'm going to try to defend him however I can. And like, he's going in like, I know I'm going to die, but at least I'm going to like go down swinging kind of thing.
With dignity. Yep.
Yeah, like my dad,
he's so
like my
brave
mom.
Already.
Yes.
He's 14 years old. Like, how many wizards? I mean, think about like all the wizards who are like grown and like cowering against Voldemort or like can't even say his name. And Harry's like fully like, well, I'm not gonna, let him like make this easy for him. So let me try, and it's 14 and like not knowing much magic,
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. Which is evidenced by the fact that he uses Expelliarmus, which was a terrible spell to use, but through the wand connection, it ends up working out. So Voldemort tries to kill him. He does Expelliarmus, and basically their like wands meet and form this gold line between them and start like shaking uncontrollably. So they're both like just clutching onto their wand, trying to stay connected. And in the books, this is kind of more elaborate because basically like this whole web of spells branch off from the spell and make this like orb around them that Phoenix song starts playing, and it actually picks both Harry and Voldemort up and like moves them over, and then the Death Eaters have to kind of like reform the circle around them.
Yeah, that's what I noticed as a very key difference in this scene from the books and the movies is that in the movies they just kind of like keep them where they are and form the dome around them. But in the books, it sounds like it's a much more, again, cinematic thing where they're like floating in the air and like their wands are connected and it's like this bright golden light, I think is what they said. Yeah, gold beam connecting wands. It just sounds cooler than the movies.
So the beams connect and they're sort of a like ball of light is kind of between the two wands, and Harry ends up forcing it back to Voldemort's wand, and out of Voldemort's wand streams out these, you can call them ghosts, but they're supposed to be like echoes of these people. It's his past spells. So I don't think they show it in the movies, but Wormtail's like metal hand comes out first, and then it's just going back in reverse order. So like Cedric Diggory comes out, the old man Muggle gardener guy comes out, Bertha Jorkins comes out, and then James Potter and Lily Potter. And the ghosts or echoes are like giving words of encouragement to Harry and scorning Voldemort. And my favorite funny quote from this scene that always makes me laugh is the old Muggle man, when he comes out, he goes, "He was a real wizard then. Killed me, that one did. You fight him, boy."
Yeah. Go this random like old man.
First reaction is like, "Oh, he wasn't bullshitting me. Wow. Like he really was a wizard."
Yeah. And then you get him, boy.
Yeah. He's like, "I don't know who you are.
I guess you're a wizard too." Yeah, like imagine, and then us I would be just screaming the whole time, like, "What's going on?" like freaking out. You know?
Yes. He just accepts this so quickly and it's just like, yeah, I'm Team Harry. Like, I don't even know what's going on, what you guys are doing, but like, I'm going to root for him.
Yeah.
So the ghosts echoes talk to Harry, and James basically comes out and is like ready to scheme with Harry and tells him that you've got to break the connection and run away and we'll distract him. And then Cedric gets in, take my body back to my parents, which is like so sad and sweet.
I know. It's sad that that's like what he thought. He could have said anything, and it was really like, take my body back to my parents. Like, they deserve to have like a proper like funeral and stuff. Like, it just goes to show to Cedric Diggory, of course, being like selfless as always, and like, I don't know, it just warms the heartstrings a little bit.
Yeah. And he doesn't mention Cho, which Cho is upset about later.
Yeah, did he say anything about me? No, probably no, girlfriend. One thing I did want to talk about, so I was kind of like, when I was doing a reread of this, I was really confused about it. Like, so why doesn't this happen? Like, I thought, okay, the meeting of the wands, and like, how it's like the sparks and all that sort of stuff. Why does that only happen with Voldemort and Harry? So at first I thought it was because Harry is a horcrux fighting against his master, essentially. But then I looked up Priori Incantatem, or however you pronounce it, and it's a reverse spell, occurs when two wands with the same core are used against each other. So this is because they both have Phoenix Feather in their wand, and this is what makes Voldemort realize he has to use someone else's wand when he's fighting Harry, and that's why he goes to get the Elder Wand. I think he uses like Malfoy's wand at first whenever they're trying to do the moving of Harry, and that whole thing happens. And it was just way too weak. So then after that happens, whenever Voldemort is like bested by Harry in the meeting of the wands the second time, he then realizes, I need the Elder Wand. I need the strongest, most powerful wand to like beat Harry.
Yes.
So I just thought that was interesting because I never realized it was because the cores were the same. That's why the wands won't work against each other. I think they made it maybe explain that later on, but I was confused with like Priori Incantatem. Like, why was that happening with like the ghosts and stuff? So
yeah, there's so many links between Voldemort and Harry, and I think like this all gets muddied, and it's really not addressed in the movies, and it's like addressed over like sprinkled in throughout the books and like random parts and stuff. So it's very hard to like connect it all. But if I had to let's just talk about the links between Voldemort and Harry. There's a couple links just to like clear up for people, especially if you've only watched the movies. So there's the link between them in the fact that the prophecy was made, right? That's probably like the first link, you could say. A prophecy is made that someone is being born that has the power to defeat Voldemort. They have power he knows not, and he will mark them as his equal. that link, I guess it technically doesn't get made until or Voldemort attacks Harry, because it could have applied to Neville. So if Voldemort had attacked Neville, it would have been different. But like the link between them that ties their fates together is this prophecy gets made, and he goes and Voldemort attacks Harry, and it inadvertently marks him as his equal. And from that point on, Voldemort has decided that he needs to go after Harry and kill Harry. And there's the whole like, only one can live while the other survives, that they're both kind of acting on. So there's that connection. Then there's also the wand connection. So Harry goes and gets his wand. It has that feather from the same fox that's Dumbledore's phoenix, in both of their cores. So their wands are connected separately from them. But wand lore is like very confusing, and there's a lot to it. Like, your wand is kind of separate from you, but kind of connected to you. And the wands like make decisions that you don't make as a wizard. Like, wands actually like improve and like work with the wizard that's wielding them. So that's why, like, if you just pick up someone else's wand and use it, like, it's not very effective, because like your wand is learning from you and interacting with you and like seeing the spells you're casting. And there's like a lot going on there. So then when it's really important, like you were bringing up, like, also Voldemort then takes Harry's blood in this scene. So now Voldemort has a little bit in Harry. And then when Voldemort first attacked Harry, he put a horcrux in Harry. So you've got like Harry's blood in Voldemort, Voldemort's horcrux in Harry, the connected wands, the prophecy, right? Like, so we're already like, by book 4, there's already like so many links.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when this Priori Incantatem thing happens, Harry's wand basically beats Voldemort's, because he's able to push that bead of light towards Voldemort's. And this is the weird part. So Harry's wand like remembers that. Imagine that wands have like, they're more than just like a stick that you wield magic. Like, this wand remembers this interaction. So then later, when they're in the 7th book and Harry's fleeing from the Dursleys and they're, running from these Death Eaters, and they're all on brooms in the air, or like the flying motorbike, Harry is falling through the sky with Voldemort chasing after him. And his wand does this like spell against Voldemort that he doesn't even recognize and didn't do intentionally. That's because the wand remembered Voldemort from this instance, from this battle in book 4, and like regurgitated some of Voldemort's magic basically back at him. And it was basically his wand after this instance in book 4 becomes more powerful and takes on some of Voldemort's power only when used against Voldemort specifically. And it doesn't matter what wand Voldemort's using. So that's why when he's using Lucius's wand, Harry's wand still recognizes it as Voldemort, and like I said, like puts some of his power back to him. So
that's so interesting. Is that
yes? So there's like, it's so complicated.
Like, read this somewhere?
Yeah. So I'm taking information from the books, and then a little bit of information about generally wands from like the extra articles and like things from J.K. Rowling. Okay, from like Pottermore. Yeah. And then then when you get into book 7, there's like, it goes extra because Voldemort acquires the Elder Wand, and then Harry ends up being like the true master of the Elder Wand. So the Elder Wand doesn't really want to go against its like true master Harry in their last battle. So I think this is why people get like confused about like, oh, like why Harry came back, or why their wands connect in certain ways, and da-da-da-da. It's because there's like so many different connections between them and their wands, and them, and like the blood and the horcrux and the prophecy, that they're so linked that all of these things, it's not like one thing's happening in a vacuum of the other. I think they all kind of like are affecting each other, but they're like certain things are reasons why certain other things happen or don't happen in different instances of the book.
I never realized that the wand, like I knew wands remember, I mean, clearly, because we're having the memory of what Voldemort has used in wand for come out in this scene, right? With the hand, Bertha Jorkins, like all these people that honestly, like doing the reread, I was like, dang, he like did a lot since he kind of like killed, like after he kills James and Lily, there's Bertha Jorkins, there's the gardener, like the old man Muggle gardener, the hand appears, then Cedric Diggory. So there's like a lot that it remembers like right then. like only Voldemort's wand. So it makes sense that Harry's wand also has remembered these things. And now I'm thinking about it I need to go reread that section in the book in book 7 where they're moving Harry from his house to like the burrow.
Mhm.
And because in the movies, I remember his hand, like the scene, his hand kind of like moves of its own accord when Harry's kind of like passed out on the motorbike. Like I remember seeing that, and I never understood if it was like Harry's so weak, but like this is the small motion that he can do, and then he's casting a spell, or if it was like his wand lifting his hand up and like doing it without his like knowledge.
Yeah. And yeah, there's like in the movie, I don't think they like talk about it much, but afterwards in the book, he's like, after that scene, he's like telling everyone, like Arthur Weasley and Lupin and everyone, he's like, I didn't do this spell. Like, I don't know how to describe it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my wand did it of its own accord. And they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you just like, you were under duress and you just like did magic you didn't know you could do. And he's like, no, 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 no. Like, this was not me. And then Dumbledore ends up kind of like helping him understand it much later. So,
Mm-hmm.
but in again, like the movies, I think they just don't have time for all that explanation and they just kind of cut some of
Yeah,
it
and that's
out.
what I think like that was maybe that little small scene was for the like the book readers like, hey, look, his wand's
Yeah.
doing it, you know, like that sort of thing.
But yeah, but going back to the scene, so Voldemort and Harry are in this like locked together, and Voldemort tells them not to interfere, and you know these people come out or echoes, and then Harry goes with James's plan to like break the connection. So he breaks the connection and just sprints basically towards, and he also we haven't even talked about this, but he has like a broken leg because the spider in the third task dropped him on the ground. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why he's like incapacitated, is because he like all this time before he's like limping on a leg, but he just decides, okay, I'm gonna like I gotta run for my life, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
like
It's like
just
adrenaline, you know? Like, you
yeah.
know how people say like if your baby's under a car, you could like lift the car or something? I think this is like the same, you know, he's running for his life. So it's like, I mean, definitely, if your leg is, you like twisted an ankle or something, or your leg's like hurting, as long as you can still put weight on it, you're going to be running for your life. And then
Yes.
basically, like when you get to where you can like feel it, I think the pain all comes back at once. And like, you know, you probably damaged yourself more, but you know, you had to get away from that situation.
Yeah. So he runs and like he, you know, pushes Death Eaters out of the way, runs. I think they're just like stunned because they don't like know what's going on. And then, you know, he kind of hides behind a tombstone, stuns a Death Eater, or does impedimenta against a Death Eater, like
Mm-hmm.
behind his back. He's like putting his hand behind his back basically and just like whoever I hit, I don't know, like I'm just running. And he gets to Cedric's body and he summons the portkey, and you know, like literally at the seconds before, like Voldemort's like following him, like about to kill him, and then he manages to get away. Like once the portkey touches him and Cedric go back to Hogwarts. And
Mm-hmm.
then that's the end of the scene. A couple key things. One thing that people bring up is, why did James appear before Lily? If they're going in reverse order, Lily was killed after James, so she should come out first.
She does come out first because she's like, your father's coming. Okay,
Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing it
there.
that way too. I don't know why people, or maybe they changed the version of the
It
book and it was the
says,
other way.
yeah, I'm looking at the AI overview. James Potter should have emerged from Voldemort's wand before Lily Potter, as he was killed first, according to the Harry Potter wiki. However, there was an error in the first printing of the book where Lily's spirit was shown before James's. But no, that doesn't make sense because it's the most recently killed, and Lily was killed after James, so it should be Lily coming out first.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I
Because
think it should be
James dies
Lily
on the
and then
stairs.
James.
Yes, that is the correct order, and people are saying it's wrong. But I'm like, no, because James being killed first and coming out, he wasn't the first killed. He wasn't the second person
Last
killed. Do you
killed.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
like
Yeah,
it's
he
going
wasn't the
reverse
last
order.
killed. Exactly. So Lily coming out is right.
Okay, so we'll say the final truth is in the first printing, it had it as Lily coming out first. And then some subsequent printings have changed it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like look now. In what is now known as the Wand Order mistake, when Harry and Lord Voldemort's wands engage in Priori Incantatem while in the graveyard, James Potter exits the wand before Lily Potter. It has always been said that James died first as he was trying to give Lily and Harry time to flee, and since victims of Lord Voldemort were exiting the wand in reverse order of being killed, it was thought to have been a clue from J.K. Rowling. Rowling later said that late night writer's fatigue was the reason, and the error has been fixed in later editions. There's her excuse for that. but but I guess there's a printing out there where James comes out first in like maybe like one of the first versions of the books, and then it was fixed, and that's why we're getting the fixed version, because
Okay.
it's like obviously the audiobooks were recorded years later. So then I'm thinking it was like the first misprinting was James coming out before Lily, but since they have fixed that.
The other thing that's important here is, so the portkey, when it's touched, it brings them there, and then when Harry touches it, it takes him away, right? It's like that's how it's spelled to be. And I think people get confused because like the portkey in the earlier example in this book, it's at a preset time. But then later in the 5th book, Dumbledore makes a portkey that's just when it's touched. So
yeah,
basically, I looked up, this is again from the J.K. Rowling archive, portkeys. Portkeys are set to leave and return on touch, not a pre-scheduled time, but a pre-scheduled time is like an added part of the spell if you want to make it that way. And that's specifically for like events where you need to pre-schedule for like concerts or whatever, when wizards are gathering. A lot of them are gathering at one place, or like the World Cup.
That makes sense to me, because it's like a lot of wizards would need to be touching that at the same time. And like if the first person who got there took the like boot or can or whatever it was that they had to touch, it's like then that screws over all the other wizards who were like supposed to be there at a certain time. Like if it was just like on touch. So it's probably, that makes sense that they do it for like large scale events. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. Like you wouldn't want it to be just on touch if you're having multiple people touch it, because then they have to
exactly.
like, try to touch at the same time or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's for one person, it makes that sense that it doesn't need to be like scheduled. It's just like whenever you're ready to go.
Yeah. But one interesting thing that the podcast I was listening to, the Through the Griffin Door by the Super Carlin brothers, they mentioned that it's interesting that this portkey was set to return. Right? Like, obviously, we know, like, Voldemort's plan was to bring Harry to the graveyard. But they brought up, like, they're questioning, like, why was it set to return then? And I don't fully understand, like, are portkeys always returning? Like, are they always set to, like, go somewhere and back? So it could be that. Or another theory that they were saying is, like, okay, so let's go. Obviously, Voldemort's plan doesn't go to plan, but if it did, and he did kill Harry, and he says that he's going to feed Harry to Nagini, or he implies that, so it could be that, and he doesn't want anyone to know that he's back, right? This is all supposed to like happen in secret. So if Harry just disappears out of the maze, his return isn't going to be a secret. So I don't know if the plan was to like return Harry's dead body and just like make it look like he just died in the maze, or maybe it was to return someone, which is even more sinister and I think would make sense, is if it was to, let's say you take some of like Harry's hair and then you return a Death Eater disguised as Harry, and then you have another person like planted at Hogwarts, because he thinks that he lost Severus Snape, so he probably thinks, oh, I need a new like plant.
That's like way far down the line. Here's my thought is, okay, obviously, whenever they made this portkey, it was originally for like the people who actually were making it, like Dumbledore. He made it to where when the students touch the cup, it brings them to the front of the maze, where they started, right? I think then Barty Crouch Jr. was able to fumble with it to where, okay, the location of this portkey is actually going to take them to the graveyard. And he never like, basically, I think he added a stop. Do you know what I mean? To the portkey.
Yeah. Like he never like unspelled it to then go back to the front. He never
unspelled it. Exactly. That's what I'm thinking, is that he either thought maybe he didn't need to break it because Harry was going to die, and so it didn't matter if he like changed the end final destination, or if he he didn't think it mattered to like take it off, or he didn't even think to take off the final destination, or you can't even take off like a final destination to a port key. You can only add a stop. Do you know what I mean? If
Yeah,
it's
that's
already been made.
interesting.
So it's like, what if he
Yeah.
just added it as a stop, like in the port key? I don't know. In maps, you know how you can add a stop? You
Yeah.
can't change you can't, you just have to end the route if you're like
There's no ending the route.
but then that's what I mean. Like, couldn't he just like end the route of that port key and create a new port key? I don't know how easy it is to make port keys, or I'm pretty sure you have to like register them with the ministry, right?
Yeah, you're not supposed to do like unsanctioned one, but I think that's why how he's getting around it. Because if we're saying that the port key, it was always a port key, because Dumbledore got it like specifically spelled to be a port key to bring them back to the front of the maze. If it was always a port key, it's not like he's creating an unsanctioned port key. He's just, like you said, adding a stop to one that exists. So that wouldn't be like
it's like
flagged.
a restroom break.
Yeah. But the thing that's curious though is like, what was Voldemort's plan? Like, I'm just taking Cedric out of this because, like, obviously he was like not supposed to be
there. He wasn't
there.
even supposed to be part of the plan. Yeah.
Yeah. Voldemort's plan was to just take Harry out of the maze, and then, like, what did he think everyone else was going to think, that he just like disappeared off the face of the earth?
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I don't know. That's interesting.
Because I feel like that would raise more flags. I feel like you have to like. I think you have to at least return his body, because then.
And you don't think after? Well, I guess he did want to wait for people to know that he returned, because then he wanted to build his army to then attack Hogwarts. But didn't he only want to attack Hogwarts because Harry was there?
I don't think he ever plans to attack Hogwarts. I think he plans to infiltrate Hogwarts, as he kind of later does, because he like assigns Snape becomes the headmaster, the Carrows become like over Defense Against the Dark Arts. I think he wants to like keep Hogwarts in place, but just like get rid of Dumbledore and make it like a school for the dark arts,
a pure blood school. Okay, yeah, I see.
So, but yeah, it is interesting. Like, Dumbledore would definitely notice if Harry just went missing. So I think you either have to return his dead body and like try to write it off like he died in the mate, like he just died in the course of the tournament somehow, because people die in these tournaments. Or you have a Death Eater that's like now disguised. Because also, what was his plan like for Barty Crouch Jr.? Was he like, if this all didn't happen, was he going to just like stay at Hogwarts secretly pretending to be Moody for like even longer? You know what I'm saying? Like was he going to be his new spot? I don't know. It's very interesting.
He literally, think about the patience that man has, like, already. Like, he has been under the Imperious Curse for years, and like didn't tell until, and he was waiting for this moment for him to be able to like go out in public and like leave.
Yeah.
So
and then he has to like be in secret. Imagine if Voldemort's then like, okay, now great job playing Moody. Now go play Harry. You're such a good actor.
Oh my gosh. Okay, something I wanted to chat about that we haven't really addressed, and I might just be like missing this, but so when Voldemort comes back, you know how he looks like snake-like? He doesn't have his nose. They describe him as having red eyes that slits like a serpent. Mm-hmm. So there's this description of how he looks when he comes back. And he himself is examining his body. Mm-hmm. And so he's looking at it like it's brand new. I'm just confused on what he looked like before he disappeared. Like, did he like have a nose? Did he still look like a regular human? Because I know when you're making horcruxes, it's taking away pieces of your soul. So you're becoming less human. That's like what it's always been described as. But I just don't know if like, as he was getting more evil and as he was making more horcruxes, did he have this appearance that he has now when he's risen? Is he looking different now than he did before he disappeared? Like, when he went to go kill Lily and James, what did he look like? Yeah,
that's an interesting question. So I'll answer it. I don't actually know, but I'm going to answer it what I think is, you know, the actor that played him in the Chamber of Secrets, the second movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
McHottie.
What?
Hottie McHottie.
Yeah, Hottie McHottie. The hottest version, in my opinion, of Voldemort.
Yeah.
Is the guy from the Chamber of Secrets guy. I picture it as he looked like that, he looked like that the whole time when like he's a kid, you know, looked like a human. And then as he was creating the horcruxes, he still looked like that, but like, you know, like he was starting to get like less human things about him, or like starting to get, or maybe just starting to look more skull-like, or just like a worn out human, like not as handsome, you know, like that, like degraded version of that. And then once he lost he lost that body, and then he comes back, and I think that's when you get like the snake like, because then he's using Nagini's like venom, and I think that's when you get like almost like a whole different appearance for him. So I do think there's like a, like you said, like the horcruxes were like affecting his appearance, but I don't think the horcruxes were making him look like a snake. I think that happens like at his return.
Got you. So like the no nose, slits for eyes, like that, all of that is probably new in this new body.
That's what I think. That's like my interpretation. Yeah.
Okay. Just like from the movie, Voldemort, there's a couple things. So when he finally notices that Cedric Diggory is like dead on the ground, he like goes over and like touches his face with his foot. I thought that was really gross. And he goes,
I hated that.
Yeah. And he goes, such a handsome boy. And I was like, I thought that was just like a funny little like line to put in there. And then also that's like obviously when Harry like chimes in and is like, don't touch him. So I think it was a transition to get like Harry to like start talking, and have it be more about Harry in the scene. So I get why they did it. But I just thought that that was like such a like interesting way, like Voldemort, like knowing everything about Voldemort's character, would he really walk over to this dead body and be like, oh, what a handsome boy, that's a shame? Like he would not do that. I feel like he would just like ignore it completely. So I just think that that is like a difference in the movies as well, that I'm like, this is a choice with the direction.
Yeah, it's definitely a choice. I didn't love it. I don't think that he would approach him. The thing above all, Voldemort fears death. So I think dead people, like these ghosts, I think they scare him. So I don't imagine him being so like lazy to like touch it with his foot. And it also makes me think, I'm like, did like poor Robert Pattinson have to lay on the ground and have someone put their foot on him? Like,
yeah. I mean,
it's his face. It's obviously his face.
He just seems like a guy who'd be open to that.
Into feet stuff. We're not even gonna go down that road.
Yeah. That and Voldemort also, like whenever in the movies he's like, oh, I can touch you now, and he's like touching Harry's forehead. This is also to me like a very memey moment where he's like, Harry's like screaming, right? And then Voldemort will like almost like match his screams. He's like, ooh, yeah, that hurts, doesn't it? And it's just like, he just looks like he's enjoying it way too much for my taste. I like didn't really enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah. The Voldemort, like, I think there was a lot of great things about the performance, but the general direction of the movie, like, they make him, in his look and in his actions, I think they make him too human and not as evil as he is. Like, he's not like commenting that people are handsome. Like, he is like, he's all about the business. Yeah.
And even like in the last movie, I think they do a lot of it for like almost like comedic relief, because even in the last movie, you know, when he like hugs Draco and Draco's like coming back, like it was just so out of character. But that was too, like every time I watch it I still bust out laughing because it's just so funny and awkward and like,
yeah, it's such a weird like directorial choice. Yeah. And it's so not, yeah, like you said, it's so out of a character. I just, that's why I think like the movie takes some liberties for certain things that I'm like, that's not the Voldemort that we read in the books, just for the record.
Yeah, and for me, I feel like it's Ralph Fiennes like taking liberty with the role and like just doing really off the wall things and them keeping it in because he's just so entertaining.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And it's all like unsettling. So I think it's just like unsettling in a different way. So maybe they're like, "Ooh, this is creepy. Like, keep it in."
Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this magical journey through the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening.
Until next week. Happy reading, happy listening, and may you never have to duel Voldemort.